Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. Today is a beautiful, happy Friday. It is actually May 20th, 2016. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, and we call it Real Talk. We have a lot of fun with it every Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we are worldwide. Thank you again to all of our listeners tweeting out from Latin America. So bienvenidos to you, as well as London, England, Berlin, Germany, and the great country of Canada. I love the Canadian national anthem, Oh Canada, but I also love the United States national anthem, Big C. Now, you good old boys down south, I think you guys celebrate the national anthem every weekday with Bud Light, Big C. Is that true?
Well, Charlton, I'm thinking about since this is Happy Friday to go ahead on and get happy and let you handle this show by yourself and go back in there and get down and get me a cup of cold and lean back, and listen to you.
Hey, I thank you for sending me out that moonshine, thinking of handling it by myself, because moonshine makes you feel like you can do anything, Big C. So that might be something we previously told us, Big C.
Moonshine is a grown man's drink, and I know out in California you talk about you guys always in that whining country.
Yeah.
And so, but
no, I said wine country. Wine country, Big C.
You can drink this out of a mason jar, and everybody respects you.
Well, everybody respects you. We understand that, Big C. But also, I want to get into the fact that, we talk so much about football and basketball and baseball and hockey and golf and even horse racing, so we don't leave you guys out in the South, Big C. We even talk about NASCAR, Big C. But I know...
Is there any other race?
Other than NASCAR and college football?
If you look at the Preakness coming up, the Kentucky Derby that was just ran a few weeks ago,
yeah,
they mimic NASCAR, Charlton. They're always making a left turn.
They're always making a left turn. No need for tread on the right. I understand that. So we just learned something else from Big C and his historical perspective that he brings to Charlton and Big C Sports. And Big C, talking about history, and I know that you like to blend Hollywood with the sports business, and we know when you talk about that, there's so many sports people that love Hollywood, but there's a lot of Hollywood people, they want to get the first seat in the front court seats at all these great games, Big C. No one did it any better than the great John Wayne, Big C.
Well, when you're talking about the Duke, Charlton, I mean, he was revered for his Western movies.
Yeah.
When you think about what he did over the years, but not many people realize, Charlton, he started off his sports career at the University of Southern California, that school you keep talking about, rides that horse into the ground.
I think Alabama's going to be saluting the great John Wayne. After that, USC comes down and runs all over you good old boys, Big C.
And that's probably the reason why John Wayne got into acting, because that horse was a deadbeat that they had out there. So he wasn't getting any productivity out of it, so he took him off on a movie set.
You know what's funny when you say that? John Wayne, he never drove around in the Cadillac Escalade. He was always on a horse. Ironically, whenever he made a movie and he was on a horse, the horse at USC came up missing, Big C, and no one could really put a finger around it. Is there any coincidence of a conspiracy, Big C?
Could be, Charlton. His football career was cut short with a surfing accident when he was at USC.
Yeah.
In 1969, he won the Academy Award for Best Actor in True Grit.
Yeah.
But he had so many great iconic roles, as an actor, and one of my favorite was The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Yeah.
In that movie, you had Woody Strode. You had, and I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name, but, he was a great Academy Award winning actor, James Stewart.
Yeah.
And this movie, really set the precedence for his career, because when you think about True Grit, you think about Rooster Cogburn.
Yeah.
John Wayne played so many of these great Western roles, and he was always out on top. He played in a lot of the cavalry movies of the late 50s and early 60s, Charlton, in the Western theme. But John Wayne, personified America.
They do.
And I remember the last time I saw him on television, it was the 1975 Oscars, Charlton, where he came out and got a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah.
And that was his last appearance on television. He was such a statuesque man, about 6'4.5", 6'5", Charlton. He had this long, gaping walk. But, he had this drawl about it when he spoke.
Yeah.
That you didn't have to see him, but you knew it was John Wayne speaking, Charlton. And he's one of those figures that in American history, that he was beloved by all, regardless of race, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was one of those actors that you wanted to sit down, watch his roles, and appreciate his autism in the movie scene. So.
Yeah, very, very much a macho man. And when you think about the great John Wayne, we talk about people where you talk about movie stars, and we know of the great Jack. You hear names like Denzel, you hear about like names like Tom Cruise or Eddie Murphy or Will Smith. But when you mention John Wayne, worldwide, people know that he was a cowboy. And when I want to bring that up, Big C, and before I do, I want to just say that this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Escalade, the standard of the world, and you can only get it brand new there at your Northern California Cadillac dealers. And when you test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, we talk about sports and John Wayne, and growing up, we had always black and white TV, at least when I grew up, Big C, but they had cowboys and Indians. And I know sometimes you deal with things that are not politically correct. This new thing with the name Redskins, I think the Native Americans say that using the term Redskins is actually okay. There was a survey done by the Associated Press, and 9 out of 10 Native Americans said that they were not offended by the name Washington Redskins. I think even in California, there were schools that had to change the name and get it away from Redskins. So some people changed it to Mustangs or Cowboys or whatever. Now, I know you don't have to be Native American to be offended or not offended, but you've seen sports over the years, and in the South, maybe it's looked at differently. But is that offensive to you, Big C, even though Native Americans say that it's not?
Charlton, it's really not offensive. But when you look at names that are used in sports teams and sports genre, okay, now you just mentioned one of the names, Cowboys.
Yeah.
Okay, where did that name come from? Not many people in history understand where the name Cowboys came from.
Yeah.
That came from black cattle drivers.
Yeah.
They were the ones who were out on the trail driving the cattle. Now, we've seen all the Western movies where all the cattle drivers are white.
Yeah.
But that's not true in history.
Buffalo Soldiers.
History, it was the Buffalo Soldiers.
Yeah.
And those people who went out on the cattle drives, and that's because black men back in that era were just called boys.
Yeah.
Period. Boys. So that name cowboy resonated from black men being denigrated, but it's acceptable when you're looking at sports teams to say Cowboys.
Yeah.
But if you go back to the history of it, just like Redskins, it was a derogatory statement made at a race.
Yeah.
That's what it was, Charlton. It wasn't anything else other than that. Now, we want to talk about playing the race card in these things, whether it's the Redskins, whether it's the Cowboys. What about down south, where we have all these rebel flags all over the place? Mississippi Rebels.
Yeah.
Who is talking about removing that denigrating flag or the symbol from that university for what that flag stands for, Charlton?
Yeah.
If you go back a year ago in South Carolina where you had the church shooting and all of the protests that followed to get that flag moved down from the State House in South Carolina, Charlton, but it's not a unilateral American feel as far as what's racist and what's not racist in America.
Yeah.
People in the South will say that's part of their history, and you can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
So why do they protect certain parts of negative parts of American society and others they want to remove? I'm still perplexed in all of this.
Yeah, and see, and that's very poignantly said, because out here in California, it's mostly diverse. I mean, almost everywhere you go, it's very diverse. Now, there are some pockets where neighborhoods are, maybe they're all one ethnic group, and maybe that's okay, but at least people interact more freely. And we don't have the history of Jim Crow here in the West Coast the way it's been perpetuated in the South, especially pre-civil rights. So I'm always sensitive to the fact that it still goes on in the hearts of people, and even the way President Obama's been treated.
Well, Charles, yeah, but let's look at this from this perspective. Okay, we just got through talking about the great John Wayne.
Yeah.
And all the Western movies that he portrayed a leading role in, okay, over time. And most of them were fighting Native Americans, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you look at it. So, we got this guy, I think his name's Donald Trump, who is trying to get the Republican nomination.
He's trying to become nicer now. He's becoming nicer. Have you noticed that?
Well, what, he got chapstick on?
Yeah, he's becoming more kind now. He even sat down with Megan Kelly.
He got a tube of chapstick and a pocket full of breast mints. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's be realistic about Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump has talked about building a wall, getting rid of all the immigrants, taking America back to what it once were. Okay?
Native American.
Who were the Native Americans, y'all?
Yeah.
Talking about the Native Americans, those people that they got teams named after Redskins and all that. If people really want to take America back to where it was, get these people back what you stole from them.
Yeah.
You stuck them on reservations, hope that they would die. you say you desecrated their names and all of that, but tell the truth. If you're going to give back to those that you've taken from.
Yeah.
So many have lost their history, their family structures because of that. There's no, emphasis given to that, Charlton. We're worried about a damn sports team, not about a history.
Well, when you think about that, too, because, and again, whatever, it's like saying there's no monolithic group. There's some people who don't like the word black. They want to use African American. I'm not offended by either one. In fact, I embrace both, but some people say, I don't want to be called black. I want to be African American.
Let's look at the word black, okay?
Yeah.
All right. They really want to portray black people as being colored people, okay?
Yeah.
When it's cold outside, Charlton, I don't turn blue.
Yeah.
When it's hot outside, I don't turn red.
Yeah.
So who's the true colored people in America?
And see, that's the thing with race too, because we're all people, and everybody has their own issues. So when a Native American says they don't like the name because it's offensive, some people say it's actually an honor to their tribe. I even look at the great University of Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. So obviously, there's never going to be 100% agreement on anything, but I do like the fact that they did ask a lot of the Native Americans if they felt it was offensive or not, and obviously they don't seem to have much of a problem with it, at least from the story by the Associated Press.
Well, Charlton, you got a team out there on the West Coast years ago when they had a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback in 1971. They were called the Stanford Indians.
Yeah, they were. Okay? You're right. They changed that.
It was a quarterback.
That's very good
knowledge.
They
were forced to change that name to the Cardinal. Now, and I don't understand where the Cardinal comes into place other than the color of the uniform.
Yeah.
But, they were one of the first ones that were badgered about changing their name, so they did that. Not many other teams followed suit, but this is an institution of higher learning in America that set a precedent that people were not willing to follow.
Well, see, I think that's very well said, too, because the Stanford Cardinal are part of the Pac-12 conference, and that's the same conference that's going to go down and beat up on you good old boys in the SEC conference. And I do think it's ironic.
Refresh my memory, Charlton. You're talking about University of Southern California.
Yes, John Wayne was there.
When was the last time they beat Stanford?
Well, the last time they beat Stanford's about 3 years ago. But
okay, all right. So they don't do very well against teams that wear cardinal in color.
Well, see, they brought Lynn Swann back, Big C. They brought Lynn Swann back, so that he's going to make all the difference in the world. And speaking of making all the difference in the world, this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California BMW dealer, home of the ultimate driving machine. Go down and test drive from the 1 Series all the way up to the mighty 600 horsepower M7, also known as a 760 Li. And when you test drive that, make sure you tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, also, Big C, I know that maybe down south you guys really don't care much for hockey, but you did talk about the Sharks. The San Jose Sharks won again. But
what's that?
Yeah, NHL hockey is a thing they play on ice.
We put that in the drink.
Yeah, you put that in the moonshine. They tried to have hockey down south, but everybody kept pouring moonshine over it, so they decided it wouldn't go too well down south. But the San Jose Sharks, they got up 2 games to 1 on the St. Louis Blues. Now, you made a funny comment that they win because Sharks like being near water. Well, they actually were near water in San Jose last night, Big C, and they won the game over the Blues.
When you look at their home record, Charlton, throughout the regular season and the playoffs, when they're close to water, the Sharks have an advantage 80% of the time.
Yeah.
So, but when they get inland, Sharks don't do well on dirt.
No.
So, they've had some problems.
Yeah.
But in their home series out throughout the playoffs and the regular season, they've been a dominant team in San Jose, and that's close to the Bay. So, if they have to end up playing down in Tampa Bay, they still would be safe.
Remember the movie Jaws? When I was a little boy, there was a movie Jaws, and they had this great white shark that was out in the ocean, and all these fishermen.
Richard Dreyfuss was the star of that movie.
Oh man, that movie stopped me from wanting to surf. Okay, because I couldn't. Every time you heard that noise, you knew something was going to happen, but none of the people got out of the water when we heard it in the movie theater. But it's amazing how people continue to surf all over the world, especially in Hawaii, and they're not afraid of sharks. But the Sharks, for the first time, they've advanced the farthest they have in the Western Conference Finals, and they have a 2-1 series advantage, and they move closer to getting into the first ever Stanley Cup Finals. So congratulations to the Sharks and the great people of the Bay Area. But Big C, I know something else that's on your mind, and we talked about the Warriors, we talked about the Cleveland Cavaliers, which they're also saying, a lot of people are saying, they're backtracking saying this might be the greatest team ever. I don't think so. Maybe they're playing great because they had to beat Detroit. They had to beat also in the Eastern Conference, Atlanta. And now Toronto seems a bit overmatched, but I'm impressed with where they're playing. But I don't think they'd be undefeated if they were in the West trying to play San Antonio, trying to play Golden State, Houston, or OKC, Big C. Just your thoughts on that.
Well, those are dominant teams every night in the Western Conference. But, Charlton, the thing that's really been overlooked with the Cleveland Cavaliers here during this historic playoff run that they have is their head coach, Tyronn Lue.
Yeah.
Okay, he passed up Pat Riley for the most consecutive wins in a playoff in one season. Pat Riley had the record at 9 last night. Tyronn Lue eclipsed it at 10. Yeah. And that was really went under the radar with the media. You know, it's not like he's getting any attention as a head coach. Now, Steve Kerr wins 10 games, it's headlines everywhere.
Yeah.
Billy Donovan, if he'd have done the same thing, headlines everywhere. We know about the great Popovich in San Antonio. But here's Tyronn Lue, who took over doing mid-season, upheaval in Cleveland. And he came in, and in the last 2.5 months of the season, he has really stabilized this team. They're playing the best basketball in the NBA. Now, you talk about the teams that they play, just a little bit overwhelmed by the talents of Cleveland. Cleveland has dominated them all physically. And when you look at the game last night, it almost looked like a layup contest.
Yeah.
and at other times, it looked like, LeBron James had his own personal slam dunk contest going on.
Well, see,
so, it was like James Harden playing all the positions for the Toronto Raptors on defense.
See, I think that's what happened to Toronto. They went down to the great state of Texas, ate some barbecue, had some moonshine, and they're a little bit more relaxed here than what they're normally used to be up in Canada. I think they'll at least get a game in Canada when they go back and they play in that great arena. I think it's called the Air Canada Center. So obviously they'll get some home cooking. They'll get away from some of that moonshine that they've been feeding them down in Cleveland to keep warm. And I think they'll at least get a game out of that. But, they won't give up. Coach Dwayne Casey says that everybody still has to figure out how to play this team. They know sometimes they're going up against the officiating, which people don't want to talk about either, because anytime you touch LeBron James, they want to call a foul. But I give him credit. The guy's worth $1 billion, so they should put a statue of him on all the NBA jerseys. And I think, who's on the NBA jerseys right now, Big C?
We got Jerry West.
Jerry West.
The logo.
Okay, they might take Jerry West.
Laker player.
They might at least put LeBron jersey on the side of him because he has more money than Jerry West ever made in his lifetime, Big C.
Well, LeBron has more money than all the players in that era, Charlton, made. Now, you think about this, Charlton, the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
When he won his second MVP with the Milwaukee Bucks, okay, and the NBA championship, his salary was only $500,000.
Only $500,000?
Only $500,000. And you got players making that every month.
I'll take it.
Really every week.
And I want to have
if you look at LeBron statues.
And Big C, I want to have a PSA to all those players. You can make a donation to Charlton and Big C Sports. That $500,000 or $1 billion, whatever it is, we'll gladly take it, Big C. Are you down with me, Big C?
I'm right there with you, Charlton.
Okay.
We'll take that still exchange out of your pocket.
Exactly. But no, that's a very good point you brought up, because I hear people trying to compare the past and the present. LeBron James, he's absolutely a stud. Didn't go to college, but this kid, obviously, you can tell he takes care of his body. He's not someone like a Charles Barkley who's kind of let himself go a little bit. This guy...
What are you saying, Charles? Is that?
Well, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but this guy, obviously, you know what it takes as an athlete, Big C. Someone's always trying to take your job, and that's why when they put so much emphasis on the college draft, whether it's college basketball or college football, you have to put someone out of work in order to get a job. So when I look at LeBron James, he had 23 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists, and he also says he plays the game like a football player. He gets back on defense. So I love his attitude. And then this thing...
Well, Charlton, when he was in high school, he played a little wide receiver. That's why he can play bully ball so well.
Yeah, and he does it great, too. He reminds me of someone like, I remember he played for Utah, Karl Malone, who came out of Louisiana Tech. He was the same kind of size. Yeah, the mailman. He never went up for a rebound where he didn't kick somebody, Big C. But LeBron James just plays like a bull, and I love it as an athlete. I just love the way he plays, even though his attitude could be a little bit better. But again, when you have $1 billion, who cares what Charlton and Big C thinks, Big C? So anyway, when I think about what's going on with the world of sports, And NBA, I appreciate what he's done. We look at last night, Kyle Irving had 26 points. Kevin Love only had 19 points for Cleveland. But they're playing in the first 2 games against Toronto. 50 points total is the combined winning. Now, I don't know what Toronto can do about that. It's not as if they're just outmatched. It's as if they just don't have the energy. And I think they were still drained by going 7 games against Miami, Big C. Any credence to that at all?
It is, Charlton. You know, you lose your legs the more and more you go. And that series with Miami was a very physical series also.
Yeah.
So, you know, those things wear you down. And you got to look at that first series also, Charlton. They went 7 games in that.
Yeah.
So it has not been an easy road for Toronto here in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And things got tougher when they got to Cleveland. But Cleveland's a team on the mission. It's like I said, it looked like a layup contest last night because they knew if they got close, they probably called a foul on them in the tunnel when they were getting off the bus.
I think they did.
This is a prelude to what's going to happen in the game to get close to a Cavalier.
I remember what Magic Johnson said about Michael Jordan when they were getting ready for the Olympics and they were taking pictures. And Magic Johnson said, "Don't stand too close to Michael. They may call a foul." And I think LeBron James gets the same kind of treatment, Big C. But again, I just appreciate what he does as an athlete, the way he's in great shape, and he has a will to lead that team, whether people like him or not. I think he's very impressive. Lowry had 10 points, and he shot 8 for 28 from the field, including 1 of 15 from three-pointers. DeMar DeRozan, he had 22 points for the Raptors. But if you can't get the three-point basket going, why not go inside? Everyone can't do what Golden State and what Cleveland are doing, but everybody, Big C, I know you know this, they want to shoot the three-point basket. Sometimes get your 3 points by going to the paint first.
Highlight show at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, but shouldn't they go to the basket though, Big C?
Let me make Fox News.
Yeah.
If I shoot enough threes, maybe I'll get that.
Yeah.
It's either a 3 or a dunk.
Yeah.
You don't make it really for just a normal pass. You know, the fundamental game of basketball has gone by the wayside because of the highlight shows.
Yeah.
Because that's all they want to talk about. But it takes the fundamentals of a game to get you that point. And I'll relate that to a former great football player, Terrell Owens, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody blasted Terrell Owens for his antics on the field, even antics off of the field.
Yeah.
You know, defensive backs, defensive coaches, fans were always upset with Terrell about what he did after he scored a touchdown. Charlton, everybody on defense was paid money.
Yeah.
If you didn't want Terrell to embarrass you and come up with a new antic, all you had to do was keep him out of the end zone.
Yeah.
But you couldn't. He was that good of an athlete that he could embarrass you getting into the end zone and even after the end zone. So don't sit there and blaspheme a player who works that hard and who is dedicated to his craft because of your personal feelings. Respect them for being an athlete.
I remember Terrell Owens when he took over in San Francisco. I was in the press box. It was a playoff game. It was Fox Sports, John Madden, and the great Pratt Summerall were doing a broadcast. And I was in the press box doing some talent stats. And I'll never forget when Steve Young dropped back the pass, he nearly slipped down and fell. And he found Terrell Owens right at the goal line, and he caught the ball. And they beat Green Bay. It was Brett Favre's team. And I'll never forget how he was crying on the sideline when he went to hug Coach Mariucci. And John Madden said, "Do you think they don't like this game? Do you think they play it just for money?" That's real emotion right there. And T.O., we talk about guys that are in great shape, Big C. Terrell Owens, he's still in great shape, and he hasn't scored a touchdown in several seasons. But he's one of those guys like LeBron James. The guy is just driven. And so as an athlete, I love seeing guys who have that mentality. And, you know, it's hard to stay in shape after you leave the game, Big C. But here's a guy who came under a lot of criticism.
What do you mean, Charlton? I got a six-pack sitting here next to me.
No, we're talking about your stomach, not putting in your stomach.
Well, that's where it's going to be. It's going to be in my stomach. So I'm going to have a six-pack stomach in a little bit.
No, the six-pack, not what you buy from the store or get from the moonshine container, but actually the sit-ups, okay?
Who said I bought it? That truck was parked out front. I thought that was free.
I understand that, Big C. We all can have that, too. And speaking of feeling good and having a six-pack, this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Ford dealers, home of the all-new F-150. They build it Ford tough, and when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Also by supporting Beneath His Wings Foundation.org, you can make a donation. Today is easy, it's simple, and it's secure. And when you look at promotions, contact Cynthia Evans at CYNN Entertainment. She's the best at promotions in Northern California. And when you go down and tweet out to her, let her know that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, we also know that baseball is big right now. In the American League, we have the Mariners. They beat the Orioles 7-2. It was the White Sox over the Astros. 2-1. The Blue Jays 3, and the Twins 2 in 11 innings. The Yankees 4-1 over the Athletics. In the National League, it was the Brewers 5, the Cubs 3, the Pirates 8, and the Braves 2. The Nationals beat the Mets 9-1. We talked about Steven Strasburg, $175 million. He had 10 strikeouts, Big C. Is that worth $175 million, though, Big C?
Well, I guess he's warming up, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's one of his better performances, having 10 strikeouts.
Yeah.
But, you still have to justify that money in the long run. It's not a one-game contract.
Yeah.
And, you talk about his 10 strikeouts. You also spoke about Justin Verlander yesterday reaching the 2,000 mark, okay, for
Incredible.
his career.
Yeah.
Now, Strasburg has a long ways to go to reach 2,000. So, will they have enough money to pay him if he ever gets in that neighborhood?
Well, that's a very good point, Big C. For the Cardinals, they beat the Rockies 13-7. Matt Carpenter, he homered and drove in a career-high 6 runs. The San Francisco Giants, my pick for the World Series this season, and they beat the Padres 3-1. Jeff Samadra, who played receiver at Notre Dame, pitched 8 strong innings. Joe Panic had 4 hits, and Brandon Crawford homered for the National League West leading San Francisco Giants. Now, Big C, I know we talk about every sport, but I really want to touch up a little bit on football because I know we talk about college football and it's coming. You talked about the great John Wayne, how he played at the great USC, the 2016 national champions. No, the Trojans, the one with the white horse, Big C. The one with the white horse, the 2016 future national champions. But when you talk about rating conferences and we talk about the heritage schools and some of the schools and the black colleges are left out, well, I think about when we rate the top conferences, and I know you're going to be biased because you're SEC country, but what would you say are the other top 4 conferences after the SEC? Would it be the Pac-12 or the Big Ten or the ACC and why, Big C?
Well, you're going to look at the placement of the team, Charlton, in the bowl series.
Yeah.
And so you really want to go up to the Big Ten, and I think they got 13, 14
Yeah, I think like 17 now, Big C, 17 or something like that.
They got a lot of teams in the conference.
Yeah.
And then, because a lot of this is based on media where you see games, and you see them in the East. A lot of the writers do not see the games on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So then they have a tendency to go to the AC. You had Clemson out of there in the national championship game. You had Florida there a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
You have teams like North Carolina who had 10, 11 regular season wins. So Duke, who David Cutcliffe has turned around and made a consistent winner.
Yeah.
So this is a conference that has really evolved over the last decade. And like I said, Florida State has always been consistent down there. The Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever it is now, the team is going to, play doormat for the opening game of the season.
That's a low blow. John Wayne doesn't want to hear that kind of talk.
Charlton, we're all in bed. We all have curfew.
Yeah.
We're not those midnight, owl people that you got to have on the West Coast. So by the time those practice games come on television, most people in the East are asleep. So we really don't get a chance to rate I guess you would call it the 5th conference out there on the West Coast.
You're talking about the Mountain West?
Well, but you got some strong teams in the West, Charlton. You got Stanford, who's always been consistent. Oregon has had some great runs out there. USC, and you talk about their great, rich history. Yeah. UCLA has a young quarterback in Rosen that Jim Moore, thought could have been the number 1 draft pick if he had came out. He rated him better than the kid Goff out of Cal, and especially Carson Wentz out of North Dakota State. So, you look at Rosen, he may be out of college next year. And that lends me to thinking about the draft, Charlton. The NFL does such a marvelous job with the draft, putting on a great show. Ran in New York for years, decades at Radio City Music Hall. Then they moved it on the road to Chicago. But it's also, Charlton, becoming a spectacle of embarrassment.
Yeah.
When you think about what the NFL is doing, you got these 2 big heads. You got Mel Kiper with all the hair. You got Tom McShay being controversial towards him. Yeah. But you're bringing in 40 players, Charlton. 40 players for the first round of the draft. And I don't know, maybe somebody in the front office of the NFL still has CTE. But, I was counting the number 1 draft picks this last year, and I think it was 31.
Yeah.
31, because New England didn't have one. And you bring in 40 players.
Yeah.
So you got at least 9 players that are going to be embarrassed to the hip. And you actually had teams that went undrafted that were in the green room because some of those first-round drafts picks did not even come to New York. Chicago.
Yeah, that's a very good point you're making there, Big C. But what happened?
So, the NFL needs to reevaluate how they want to market their product.
Yeah.
Don't put these young men in the green room sweating all night, embarrassed with cameras stuck in their face, even ESPN.
Yeah.
Show a little class. Don't sit there and beat the young man down because he's in this embarrassing situation.
I agree.
He doesn't know when he's going to get drafted, but you got some guys who are speculated on your staff.
Yeah.
That have no clue. You know, they talk about their big board. They'd be better off saying my little board.
Right.
Because that's what it comes down to in the end. At the end of the draft day, it was honed down to a little bitty board that they guessed only 40% of accuracy on, Charlton.
Well, ironically, when you bring that up, Big C, Jerry Jones, in the last segment of our program, Jerry Jones wants to have the draft in Dallas at his great stadium, but this is the same Jerry Jones. You know, he made his money through oil, and he's talking about putting a team in Las Vegas. Would he be considering at all moving the Dallas Cowboys to the great state of Nevada to play in Las Vegas? I don't think he would, but he wants. I just think he should stop doing that, be a leader, and talk about keeping teams where they are. Because as you talked about before, we're grateful that the Rams are back in Los Angeles. But look at the jobs that were displaced in St. Louis. Now, when you have some of the people who considered the leading minds of the NFL, when they talk about moving franchises, why doesn't he talk about moving the Dallas Cowboys to Las Vegas and then having the draft in Las Vegas instead of talking about the Raiders or somebody else going there, Big C?
Well, Charlton, it's always easy to run somebody else's house other than your own because you can make a bad choice and you can still go home and sleep at night if you did it for somebody else.
Yeah.
Now, Jerry Jones, when you think about that, this is just a publicity stunt talking about putting a team in Las Vegas. There will be no professional sports in Las Vegas beyond boxing and the MMA, Charlton. Let's get that perfectly clear. NBA, baseball, NFL, hockey, they're not going to Vegas. Vegas is a transient town, Charlton. They don't have the population to support the team. And when people are on vacation, they're not going to spend $250 to sit in a football stadium, in 103 degrees heat when the casino was 78 degrees and giving away free cocktails and a little moonshine on the platform.
And speaking of free cocktails,
when you talk about these owners,
yeah,
they're speculating in the wrong way. They're sending a false bit of advertising and hope to some of these general areas. But as you spoke about, Charlton, why do you want to rape a city?
Yeah.
Why do you want to take away all of these jobs, these livelihoods, displaced families, students, all of this? There's a long-term effect. We look at the multi-million-dollar athletes, Charlton, who can move, buy a new home elsewhere. But what about that clerical worker that worked for that team? What about that maintenance person that worked for that team? That laundry person? They can't up and move to another city and go buy a $500,000 house like a football player can, Charlton.
Well, speaking of $500,000 house, you can also go to United Labor and get a $100,000 life insurance policy without any medical checks. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C for the details. Also, this segment is sponsored by Goosehead Insurance, the leaders in PNC. We beat about 99% of the competition. Big C, in the final minute of the program, we know that the basketball game is going to be actually played over the weekend. Sunday, the Golden State Warriors, they're favored by 2.5 on the road at OKC in the final 60 seconds. Big C, your thoughts on that game? I think that they'll probably split those two. If not, I give Golden State the better chance of coming out of there 2-0 out of OKC, Big C.
Well, they're going to have to find some hurt no more for Steph Curry's elbow. He doesn't bother, but anytime you get a welt like that, Charlton, it's going to limit the rotation that you have. And so there's going to be some discomfort in that elbow, and that's his shooting arm also, Charlton. So that's going to be a key. But we know the electricity. They'll have a whiteout going in Oklahoma City in the fans. So, the energy that they bring in that home arena is unparalleled in the NBA.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that Golden State is going to have to fight through.
Yeah.
Now, will Steven Adams show up for Game 3? They could not handle him in Game 1. He shut down Bogut, embarrassed him. He threw a no-hitter.
Well, Bogut had a hurt buttocks, though, Big C. You got to be fair. The guy had a hurt buttocks in that game.
Okay. He had some hurt feelings, too, at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So,
That's funny. But Big C, I tell you, no matter who wins the game, it's great to see basketball. When you compare that series versus Cleveland and Toronto, I'm sure most people would rather see the OKC and the Golden State Warriors. In the last 30 seconds, Big C, just your thoughts on what you are going to be watching this weekend. I know golf is happening. We have some motorsports. We also have a lot of basketball and baseball. What's your thoughts, Big C?
Well, you got Jordan Spieth, Charlton, leading the tournament this weekend right now, going into the weekend. You got the second leg of the Triple Crown being run. You got Golden State and OKC on Sunday. It's just a great weekend for a cross-reference of sports, Charlton. So, it's an exciting time. We got the NHL playoffs going on. You got the OTAs ending in football. You know, sports is starting to hit stride right now, Charles.
And speaking of hitting your stride, I know Lynn Swan, he's out running wind sprints, Big C, getting ready for the big USC-Alabama showdown in the great state of Texas. And you can get ready for it, too, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 o'clock on the East Coast. Thank you so much, Big C, for calling in. You know, California making millions, $187 million tonight. Big C and Charlton are going to split that up. And you heard it here first. And again, every Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Listen to Charles on the Big C Sports. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope you have a super fantastic day.